Hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar on reflexive monitoring and process indicators for NBS. I am Dr. Adina Dumitru. I am a distinguished researcher and director of the Sustainability Specialization Campus at the University of A Coruña, located in the region of Galicia, in Spain. At the Sustainability Specialization Campus, we are passionate about helping cities to assess progress towards sustainable development goals. With the co-lead of the City of Glasgow, I work with colleagues from other universities and with city partners to develop an impact assessment framework for nature-based solutions. In this part of the webinar, I will talk to you about process indicators for nature-based solutions. There is a general agreement that citizen involvement in the process of NBS design and delivery is a key factor in fostering community acceptability of NBS, as well as a sense of ownership, necessary to ensure that the NBS is used and maintained properly over time. Some cities, like Glasgow in Connecting Nature, aim to go beyond involvement to support community empowerment, understood as the community's ability to self-organize and claim spaces for NBS, take ownership of the process of design and implementation, and maintain and improve it over time. However, this process is too often left to improvisation and ad hoc decision-making, instead of relying on careful planning, monitoring and evaluation to understand what works for the desired objectives and what does not. Process indicators are those that measure the activities and outputs or direct results of the design and implementation of nature-based solutions. Before implementation, there is often some process put in place to allow the public or particular communities to have a say in the design of NBS. This process often aims to ensure a fit between the diverse needs of a particular community and the NBS, foster acceptability, especially when the NBS is not considered a priority by all members of a community, or with the aim to contribute to particular social objectives, such as building a sense of place, social capital, or trust in members of a community. Capturing this process is important for several reasons. First, it is important to differentiate between the process of NBS design and the outcomes of NBS, in order to understand specifically what contributes to desired strategic objectives. For example, if one of the aims of an NBS, such as a food-growing garden, is to build empowerment in a community, it is helpful to know were the participatory activities to design and implement the NBS already important in building a sense of control over the process, which is a component of empowerment? Or was the process design actually disempowering for certain, maybe disenfranchised members? Are particular activities more effective than others in fostering empowerment? And secondly, being able to assess the weight of each factor on the sought outcome can help us learn from experience and know for a fact, and not just think or hope, how to best organize the process of NBS design and implementation to achieve our objectives. So what should we monitor? The following questions will help us keep track of the process of NBS design. What specific activities are organized as part of the process of NBS design? What are the objectives of these activities? Who organizes them? Who is in charge of setting the agenda? Who is invited to attend and in what capacity? Which social groups are represented? How is this agreement dealt with? How are modifications to the plan decided on? If there are barriers to the participation of certain groups, such as language or cultural background, how are these barriers tackled? If there are technical skills required to participate, such as the ability to read maps and design plans, are there measures taken to ensure legibility? At a minimum, the process should be monitored for transparency, procedural fairness, inclusiveness, openness, and the level of control and ownership of participants over decisions being made. We can then evaluate the effects of process characteristics on social objectives, such as social capital, empowerment, trust, tolerance, solidarity and respect, as well as inclusiveness and a sense of place, or on governance objectives, such as new public-private partnerships generated that can support NBS, trust in decision-making procedures and decision-makers, or lessons learned on how to mainstream NBS. And how should we monitor and evaluate process? Make sure you design and use observation support tools that allow you to document along the way. Have independent observers to the process to provide feedback if you want to be able to correct as you go. And use short evaluation surveys for participants to assess the process in terms of the characteristics mentioned above. If well planned, process evaluation is not time-consuming and can be really effective for adequate planning of NBS, as well as fostering important social benefits. If not evaluated, the process can actually reproduce some of the same social dynamics the NBS attempts to counteract, such as social exclusion, distrust, or disempowerment. Thank you very much for listening to my part of the webinar.